Yo, what's going on? Welcome to today's video. Today we are at Grant Tree. This is in Grant Cove's Kings Canyon National Park. So the thing about this tree is supposedly it is about 267 feet. That's about 27 stories high. And something about the width, I don't really know too much about it to be honest, but I can check it out. If you haven't, come check it out. Before we get into the video, if you haven't already, subscribe, drop a like, and leave a comment, and let me know what you think about the video. We're going to be jumping into a series called Audio Fundamentals, where I'm going to be breaking down, not really me, the AI is going to be breaking down everything you're going to need to know about the fundamentals of audio, and there we're going to get into some more other things.
When we think about making music, it's easy to get lost in all the technical stuff, the knobs, the faders, all that complex software. But what if we thought about it more like sculpture? Today we're going to look at how raw sound gets completely transformed into a powerful piece of art. That's the big question, isn't it? We've all heard a rough demo, maybe on a phone, and then we hear the final album version, and it's just night and day. There's this incredible, invisible process that takes it from a rough block of stone to a finished masterpiece.
And this quote, this just nails it. It's not always about adding more and more stuff to a track. So often, the real magic is in taking things away, chipping away all the clutter to reveal the true shape, the real emotion of the song that's already hiding in there.
Now, every sculptor needs something to work with, right? For us, it's the sound wave. So, just to set the stage, let's remember the two basics. You've got frequency, which is just how we hear pitch, high notes, low notes. And you've got amplitude, which is what we hear as loudness or volume. This is our block of marble.
Okay, so what's the first thing a sculptor does? They start to define the overall shape. In the world of audio, we do that with a tool called a compressor. This is how we start to wrangle that raw sound and give it a powerful, consistent form.
But before we grab the tool, we have to know what we're actually trying to shape. And that brings us to a really key idea in all of modern music: dynamic range.
It sounds technical, but it's super simple. It's just the difference between the absolute quietest part of a performance and the absolute loudest. Think about a singer who whispers a verse and then just belts out a massive chorus. That huge gap in volume, that's the dynamic range. And the compressor's job is to make that gap a little more manageable.
Here's a fantastic way to picture this. Think of an uncompressed vocal track as a messy, unruly beard. You've got these wild, spiky hairs, those are the loud peaks, sticking out all over the place. It just doesn't have a clean, defined shape.
So how do we fix it? Well, our compressor is basically a beard trimmer with a guard on it. It doesn't just cut everything, it only trims the ends of those extra long hairs that stick out, which, for us, are the loudest parts of the sound. And what's the result? A nice, neat, even beard. Or, in our audio world, the loudest peaks are now tamed. And because we've controlled those peaks, we can now turn up the entire thing without it distorting. It sounds more powerful, more present, and it just sits perfectly in a busy song.
All right, let's move on. Now that we have the basic shape down, it's time to grab our chisel and start working on the fine details. For an audio engineer, that chisel is the equalizer, or EQ. And this is the tool we use to carve out a specific space for every single instrument.
Have you ever had this happen? You're working on a song, and every instrument sounds amazing by itself. But then you press play on everything at once, and it just turns into a big, blurry mess? Yeah, that is the famous muddy mix, and it's probably the #1 problem everyone faces when they start out.
If you haven't already checked out my free ebooks, 100 plus free plugins that you could download so you can mix and master anywhere you are, go check it out, link in the description. I'm also going to be giving out my other ebook, Recording Pro Vocals, for free too. So if you're interested in learning how to record vocals, go check it out, and then you can make some money, and then you can come to the National Forest, go look at some big ass trees.
The reason for all that mud actually has a scientific name. It's called frequency masking. All it really means is that different instruments are trying to shout in the exact same frequency range at the same time. They end up fighting each other, and you can't hear any of them clearly. The absolute classic example of this is the battle between the kick drum and the bass guitar.
They both want to own the low end, but with our EQ chisel, we can perform some sonic surgery. We can carve a little pocket out of the bass guitar sound right where the thump of the kick drum lives. And just like that, they stop fighting. They each have their own little home, and suddenly that low end sounds punchy and crystal clear.
So, our sculpture is beautifully carved. It's defined. What's next? Well, now we have to decide where to put it. Are we putting it in a giant gallery, a concert hall, a small intimate room? We create that sense of 3D space and atmosphere using effects.
The two big ones here are delay and reverb. Delay is really simple. It creates distinct individual echoes. Think of shouting into a canyon. Hello, hello, hello. But reverb is different. Reverb is what happens when you have thousands of echoes bouncing around so fast that they all just blend together into this one continuous sound. It's what perfectly mimics the sound of being in a real room.
And you know, there's such a cool history to this stuff. That classic, fast, slapback echo you hear on old Elvis Presley records, they invented that in the 50s by literally using a second tape machine to play the vocal back just a tiny fraction of a second later. How clever is that? It's a physical solution that created this totally iconic sound. Okay, our sculpture is shaped, it's carved, and we've placed it in a beautiful gallery. The mix is done. But there is one final, absolutely crucial step before we open the doors and let the world see it. And that step is mastering. This is the final polish.
I absolutely love this analogy because it sets the perfect expectation. Mastering is not some magic bullet. If the mix itself, the cake, is bad, no amount of icing is going to save it. It's just not.
So you have to remember, mastering is all about enhancement. It takes a mix that's already great and just makes it a tiny bit better, making sure it's ready to go and will sound fantastic no matter where you listen to it.
So what is a mastering engineer really doing? Well, they're basically the final quality control inspector. They hunt for tiny technical glitches, they make sure the song is the right loudness for Spotify or Apple Music, they make sure all the songs on an album feel like they belong together, and they add all that crucial background info, like the artist and track title, so everyone gets paid and credited properly.
So, there you have it. We've gone from a raw block of sound to a polished, mastered song that's ready for the world. The next time you put on your favorite song, listen a little differently. Try to hear the shape, the space, the clarity that's been carved into it. Because great songs aren't just recorded, they're sculpted. The only question left is, what will you hear differently now?
Let the people know where we're at. That's how big the tree is.